to our graduation, and thank you for your support. I promise I'll try to keep this speech short. I'd also like to give credit to all the grade 8 French immersions, because when we were deciding the valedictorian, our class made an agreement that the valedictorian speech would be written together, like our final group project. We want to tell you some stories about our years at St. Anthony's, so you can have an idea of who we are and how we spent our time here. Being stuck with the same people for 10 years, 6 hours a week, 5 days a week, for 10 months brings out the crazy in all of us, even Madame Gilbert. Actually, especially Madame Gilbert. I didn't write any of this speech, so if you're questioning the selection of stories, remember that they were selected by my fellow graduates, and I'm simply telling you what they want to say. So I hope you're ready for some great true stories that all take place in this irritating place we call school. You have some great and eventful memories, so I'll keep it simple and start from the oldest and work my way from there. The first unusual story that we can remember was in grade 2 with Madame Hay, who recently passed away. We were having a school lockdown practice, and everyone was in the corner with the lights turned off, being completely silent, but the TV was still paused. Because you were supposed to turn off all the lights in lockdown drills, Madame Hay attempted to turn it off with the remote. Have you ever tried using a different remote in the dark? It's very difficult, and you usually end up pressing the wrong button, which is exactly what Madame Hay did. When the principal was checking all the rooms, he got the pleasure of listening to some of Meet the Robinsons. We've had some great teachers over our years at St. Anthony's. One of the best was Mr. Blair, the only male homeroom teacher my class has ever had. In grade 3, we had a pretty strange sense of humor, like most other grade 3s. So when our very manly teacher came into the room wearing a wig and talking in a high voice, declaring he was Mrs. Blair, we laughed our heads off and committed it to our little memories. As I've obviously just demonstrated, we were child prodigies when we were in grade 3 and 4. So when a giant snowstorm hit and a giant snow-ice combination formed in the ditch by the fence, our immediate reaction was to jump into it. We didn't find carrot fruit until spring. In grade 6, we discovered a new obsession for a sport, other than dodgeball. Everybody's It Tag is a game with dozens of people in a small square made of pylons, all trying to touch each other's shins. Naturally, we got really competitive about it, but soon we were masters of this new variation of tag. We were so concentrated on this game that when you came to the playground, you could tell where our playing field was, even with us not being there. We killed a perfect square of grass. It was all yellow where the rest of the field was green. We disliked the idea, but for the well-being of the grass, the teachers forced us to move our field. Once we had made it through grades 5 and 6 with Madame Saxton, we were relieved to come to Madame McGillivray's class for the sake of less strenuous homework. Soon we found that we wouldn't be taught by Phil McGill quite yet, but Madame Hillier would be our teacher until the end of Madame McGillivray's maternity leave. All I can say is the poor teacher had no idea what she was getting into. One day we were all sitting at our desks, chatting, working, airplanes, reading, normal student activity. Madame Hillier had just paused our science lesson to talk to Emma and Lauren about their science fair project. And then it happened. Kendrick started to cough violently, and then he ran over to the garbage and barfed. And like normal relaxed students would react to upchuck, we started shouting and yelling for Madame Hillier. Fortunately, she didn't quite catch exactly what we were saying, and she turned around and said, "What is so important that I can't simply finish my conversation with Kara and Emma?" Oh wait, Lord and Emma. Sorry. And like we all know Kenny, he turned away from the garbage and retorted, "I barfed!" Here's another great misunderstanding with Madame Hillier. You're all sure to enjoy it. It was that time of year again when we had to talk about drug and alcohol abuse. We were supposed to be discussing drugs, but our class trailed off to a long, disorganized conversation about alcohol. So after many attempts to get our attention and get back to the subject, Madame Hillier said, "Everybody, we're on drugs right now." What was worse, that Mr. Walsh happened to be present doing some sort of evaluation. Well, Madame McGillivray obviously returned, and so did our many misunderstandings and accidents. Because our teachers insist on us being leaders in school, she would often take up odd jobs from other teachers on our behalf. One indoor recess, we were doing just that, cutting out construction paper goblets for the grade 2's first communion. Because we're all quite lazy in grade 8, it took some coaxing and effort to actually get us to help her with the job. So after a bit of reminders and nagging, Madame McGillivray tried the positive and happy approach to motivate us. She turned around and said, come on guys, cutting is therapeutic. But then, realizing what she said, McGill went completely red, apologized, and confirmed that she meant cutting paper is therapeutic. Fortunately, we have many stories of accidental, misunderstood outbursts from our teachers to embarrass them tonight. And on our grade 8 graduation trip last year, we were lucky enough to visit Quebec City. While touring the lower area of the city was amazing and fantastic, we did get caught in the rain a couple times, so there were massive puddles everywhere. Unfortunately, Madame McGillivray was stationed at the back of the group, and she got splashed by a truck and was soaked from the waist down. When it happened, she yelled a French word that none of us recognized, but when all the beggars and even our tour guide started staring at her, we knew. We had caught our teacher saying a French swear word. But unfortunately, we didn't remember it for a vocabulary test. Another teacher that is quite dear to us has some interesting stories to tell involving lunch duties. Whenever we got up to our crazy shenanigans, Miss Wilkie had a knack for walking in at the worst time. She saw it all, Quinn being carried around in the milk crate, Captain standing on the shelves, and Bronte demonstrating a menstrual period tracking app. Track and field is for some the best and others the worst time of year. And as grade 8, we don't really care about anybody's opinions concerning our actions at the end of the year. So, to make the 100-meter dash interesting, we all came up with a great little stunt as a protest to the teachers forcing us to participate in track and field. Some of us paid Kendrick to do the 100-meter dash with style. He is now the reigning school champion of the 100-meter shuffle. To anyone who hasn't been in on the organized chaos, St. Anthony's Day is one of the best days of the school year. We have an entire afternoon to hold a carnival. Each classroom holds their own station. You pay a small fee for entry or to buy something. One of my favorite memories is when some of the older boys at our school volunteered to take kindergartners around to different stations. And of course, there was that one little kindergartner boy that wanted to get his nails painted. So, to make sure he didn't get teased by all the older boys who buddied up with the little kids, got their nails done as well. So as you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, we had a wonderful and eventful elementary school careers, but every story has an end. Now we're a bit too old for St. Anthony's, and we're moving on to our next big journey, high school. But before we leave, we've got a lot of people to acknowledge and thank for a wonderful stay. First, I'd like to thank God for bringing us Madame Pei, a compassionate and amazing educator, and may she rest in peace. Next, we want to thank all the custodians, principals, substitutes, EAs, and office staff for all their hard work they've done to make this possible. Now we want to thank all of you for coming here and supporting us through our elementary school careers and adventures. We also want to thank our parents for also supporting us, loving us, and caring for us through our elementary school. But last, but certainly not least, we want to thank all of our teachers, because as Nicholas Sparks wrote, they inspire you, they entertain you, and you end up learning a ton without even knowing it. And they have always, as Madame McGillivray says, gotten our neurons firing. So thank you, goodbye, and we wish the best to all who are leaving behind.
I don't know, there are